My name is Tabitha Honold, and I'm doing a presentation on Redeployment by Phil Clay. What is an invisible identity? It is the characteristics that are not visible to the human eye. The person struggles to maintain social interactions in a daily life cycle. Things associated with invisible identity are differentiating and signaling. Concealment is also associated, and that is when a person prevents others from acquiring information about oneself. Phil Clay's biography. He graduated from Dartmouth College, and then he joined the U.S. Marines. He served a 13-month tour in 2007 to 2008 in Iraq. He was a public affairs officer, and after he got out, he started writing. His works have appeared in many places, such as New York Times, Newsweek, and the Washington Post. In 2014, he received a National Book Award. How he served. He was a public affairs officer, which means he was a chaplain and a mortuary affairs leader. He dealt with many problems associated with his fellow Marines and sailors, because when you're overseas, there's the Navy also works with the Marines. He was the go-to person for any problems, and he also served as a counselor overseas, so if anybody has any problems, they just go talk to him. His works. All of his works refer to military-related events and feelings about the events. Some of his works were Citizen Soldier, How We Mourned, Why We Fought, What Defines a Modern Warrior, After War, A Failure of Imagination, and the famous Redeployment. What do all of his works have in common? They all share the brutality of war and the effects. They also share the faith one has for their country and their comrades and how close they can be. The guilt from war is a big one that all of his works share. And the fear from what life is like after war. And this has to do a little bit with survival in the war life and the home life. A summary of Redeployment. This is about a Marine who returns from home to find out he really isn't home. He is physically but not mentally. He thinks about the war life constantly, the people that were killed and the people that were suffering, including his fellow soldiers. He actually forgot what home life was like. When he returned home, he didn't recognize his wife's touch or her kisses or anything. When he's out in public, he actually uses his training, and he's always paying attention to his surroundings. He keeps thinking that he wants to go back to war because home doesn't feel the same anymore. His similarities between his works. After War, Failure of the Imagination is very similar to Redeployment. It goes off the slogan, you don't know, you weren't there, which is what soldiers normally say to civilians when they gesture that they don't get their feelings. Veterans want to protect their memories that are painful and sacred to him from outside judgment. War separates vets from the rest of mankind, and they also share the loneliness, the anger, and the confusion. Redeployment and the invisible identity. The invisible identity in this story is the veteran. And it refers to the stereotypes of soldiers that have PTSD. It relates to difficulties he feels, but others don't see. They're invisible to him. He struggles socially with his wife. He can't hold a conversation, and everything feels different. He also struggles with being in public. They took a trip to the mall, and he was constantly concerned about what was going on around him and not actually the fact that he was with his wife. He was too busy looking for insurgents and things out of place. And the identity also correlates and compares home life with wartime life, which are two completely different things. The transitioning phase. It shows how hard it is for veterans to transition from wartime to home life. For instance, the transition from the plane ride. He sees all the times he almost died And he keeps seeing all the people that died and the guilt he felt when he thought about his wife. He felt bad for thinking about his wife because she was healthy when he had just left some place where everybody was always suffering. They took his rifle. He didn't really know how to feel about this. He didn't know where to put his hands. He had had it the whole time he was in Iraq. So he was unsure of what to do without his rifle. It felt good for them to feel the effects of a hangover because they actually felt pain from it and they felt like they were alive. So it was a good feeling to them. The pain that they feel when they come home. All the Marines thought that their wives were going to be scared of them like they were killing machines or something. And Weishart's wife actually wasn't there when he came home. All of her stuff was moved out. So when they got home, they got a 96 hours of liberty, which is 4 days off, and they didn't have to go to work. Weishart actually went on a drunken binge because he didn't know how to deal with his wife leaving him. And his friends kept a close eye on him and always made sure somebody was with them. So that's how close soldiers are to one another. They always have each other's backs. And they also shared the pain of sitting at home and thinking, I want to go back. By doing this, they're concealing their pain because they're not talking to their wives or their family about it. They're basically just signaling that something's wrong, but not really doing something about it. Because they're not communicating. They're just giving little gestures. Why the title Redeployment? He had a close connection with his dog Vicar. And when he returned from the war, Vicar was suffering. He was very sick. He could barely move and he had lost a lot of weight. His wife actually wanted to take him to the vet and have him put down. But he felt that it was his duty to take care of Vicar's pain. So what he did was he went back to the days in Iraq, got his gun, relived all the moments they had together, the good times, and then he took Vicar's pain away. For him, this scenario was like him reliving wartime, and that's why the title is Redeployment. And there are my references. Thank you.